I'm in therapy right now because I'm transitioning.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize the microphone was hot. That's Big Mike. Big Mike is transitioning. This really doesn't come as a surprise to anyone, does it? Where is Joan Rivers? Someone get Joan Rivers on the horn. Big Mike is I didn't see that coming. We traded texts about that but I didn't yesterday. But I didn't see that coming. That's good fun. That's right, Michelle Obama. She's transitioning. No sense of irony, these people. They use the words, but they don't know what they mean. What a bunch. The Democrat Party, what are they doing now? We got a big story. It's become a national story already. Out of Loudoun County, Virginia, where they got more transgender stuff, kind of like Big Mike. It's a continuation of what Big Mike is going through there. I hope she doesn't attempt suicide. You know what the attempted suicide rate is for people that are transitioning from male to female or female to male? It's about 40%. About 40% attempted suicide rate. Isn't that wild? And the Democrat Party, they're not well. I am telling you, how many people do they have that are not well, Chris? Oh, tens of millions. They've got a great many millions of people that are not well. But in Loudoun County, we have the story for you today. Loudoun County, they have, and this is kind of fun because it's a twist on the Democrat Party theme. They have a girl at a high school out there who says, "I'm a boy." You're not a boy, just look at you. And she has made her way into the boys' locker room, right? The boys' locker room. And some of the boys at the school in the locker room, they've said, why is there a girl? And I don't use the word biological because I'm not Ketanji Brown Jackson. I know what a girl is. I know what a boy is. I know what a man is. I know what a woman is. I know I've been walking this earth for a while now, and I figured this out very early on. And I mean very early on. I was like, hey, look at this. Got who's that? Mary Tyler Moore. That's that's great. I Dream of Jeannie. What is that? That is, holy cow, I think I feel a stirring inside of me. And the Democrats today, they're trying to raise demented, mentally unstable generations. And they're doing a pretty good job. They're out there rioting against Israel and in favor of Hamas. They're out there supporting Mahmoud Khalil, who's raising the intifada in the United States of America, global war against Western civilization. The Democrats, because they're the left, keep in mind they're not liberals, they're the left, they're encouraging all of this, naturally. And who else do they love, Michael? They love MS-13. They love everybody. You know, they got their boy Brego Garcia. They all want their daughters to date him. And, of course, they want their daughters to date the CEO killer, Luigi Mangione. They're going to have posters on the back of their bedroom doors like he's Farrah Fawcett because they're mental, serious mental issues with the entirety of the Democrat Party. Oh, man. So we got that. They love, it's not just MS-13 they love it. It's not just Luigi Mangione. It's not just Mahmoud Khalil. They've got more as well. They love Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan guy. The Democrat Party is in bed with Tren de Aragua and MS-13. You see that 11 young men with Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang, attacked police officers in where? In Caracas? No, in New York City, in Times Square. A violent mob of 11 Utes. What's a Ute? They attacked the police, violence, hurling objects, bottles, and things at the police, and the Democrats who say, well, that's free speech. You know, free speech is everything except a 75-year-old grandmother praying outside of an abortion clinic. She gets 2 years in prison because the Democrat Party is very unwell indeed. They are not normal people, not even close. So we've just got, just scratching the surface, but we've got, it's becoming a national story, as I said, out of Loudoun County in Virginia. And the Attorney General, the great Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Jason Miyares, was on the radio here in Washington, D.C., on WMAL, on O'Connor and Company. And this morning he was, just not too long ago. And he had a thing or two to say, the wonderful, great Jason Miyares had a thing or two to say about the Democrat Party's gender dysphoria and the fact that they've got this a young woman who says, I'm a boy. I'm in the boys' locker room. And then 3 of the boys in the high school said, you know, this is a little freaky. I don't think I want this person who says she's a boy in the locker room. And the young men complained to the authorities, Sig Heil, the authorities. And the authorities said, oh, you young men are in trouble. You have violated her Title IX rights or protections. So the Democrats are punishing the boys because that kind of brings it full circle, doesn't it, into the stupidest place it can possibly be. The Democrat Party should be banished, should be banned in the United States with their history of terrorism and political violence, which continues to this day. Hey, Michael, did they firebomb any Jewish politicians' houses last night? Because that happened to the Jewish governor of Pennsylvania very recently. And have you noticed how that's a one-day story? That's not a big news story when Democrats firebomb a Jewish governor's house in Pennsylvania with Molotov cocktails, 2 of them, and the Israel-hating Democrat young male arrested. Well, you know, there's an arrest. And, Michael, have they released him on, like, $300 bail yet? Because you know how they are when it comes to, they love bail. The worse you are, the worse the person is, the more the Democrats want you out on bail. You remember Kamala Harris was helping to raise money for the rioters in the George Floyd melee, where they murdered dozens, committed billions in property damage, sacked, looted, and burned the country from coast to coast because a career criminal junkie died of cardiac failure while resisting arrest for yet another felony. And the Democrat Party burned the country down because they love criminals and crime and crackheads. And he had fentanyl in his system and methamphetamine. I'm not sure he had crack. We'll leave that to Hunter Biden. Speaking of Hunter Biden, Joe Biden did an interview. He sat down and did an interview with the British Broadcasting Corporation. And there's a great headline. In fact, one of my brothers sent me the headline this morning, and it did kind of make me laugh. The headline this morning from The Telegraph out of the United Kingdom, and it's wonderful. The headline says, Biden interview reminds us why Americans elected Trump. That's a British newspaper. And he sat down with a British news outlet to do his first sit-up interview. And the British are responding with, Biden interview reminds us why Americans elected Trump, because Biden's brain, she's a no good. That brain of his, she's a dead. She's a no good, that brain. Man, oh man, she's a broke. That brain of his, she's a broke. So we got that. Also, the Hutus and the Tutsis are back in the news. You know, they've been murdering each other ever since. The white liberals started ignoring them long ago, but they kept murdering each other, Congo and Rwanda. Remember Rwanda? You got Hotel Rwanda, had made a major motion picture and stuff. It was okay, not so good. But the Congo and Rwanda peace deal they got a peace deal. They murdered 6 million of each. So they got a war going on there. 6 million dead. That's the same number from the Holocaust. But the Democrats now support the anti-Jewish Holocaust. They applaud that. They're with Hamas. They're with Iran. They're not on the side of civilization. They're not liberals. They're the left. But in Congo and Rwanda, the Hutus and the Tutsis. Now, Michael, because we had the Hutus and one side was being massacred. Which side was massacring and which side was doing the massacre? Do you know? You don't know? Okay. Well, I'll get to that a little. I'll give you a clue. Here's a clue. Toot toot tootsie goodbye. That's the clue that should guide you right to the brass ring on that. That's great. But it turns out that Marco Rubio has brokered a peace, and the news media completely ignored it. because it might reflect well on the Trump administration and on Marco Rubio and on Republicans. They don't care if millions of Africans are murdered at the Washington Post or the other Democrat strongholds. They could care less. They're the left. They don't care about human life. They're like Vlad the Impaler, Putin, or the Chinese with the... You see, the Chinese are having big economic problems. And I heard my great friend Vince Colonnese talking about it on his wonderful radio show the other day, too. And there are a lot of Chinese workers. They call them workers because they're communists. And the Democrats call us all workers, too, here in the United States for the same reason. And it turns out that a lot of Chinese are not being paid. They work, right? Nose to the grindstone. And then they don't get paid. And a whole bunch of Chinese workers, they call them, they were on rooftops of tall buildings that they probably built, threatening to throw themselves off and hurtle to their own deaths, commit suicide on a mass scale, not quite Jonestown, which was Democrats too, racist Democrats, Jim Jones, racist Democrat, socialist communists. They were building a socialist utopia in Guyana. Then they all committed suicide. Now, these Chinese workers on rooftops threatening to throw themselves off and kill themselves because they're not being paid. And the Democrats learn nothing from anything. History is not their guide. It's a complete mystery to them. History is mystery, the Democrat Party. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. You know, President Trump, just touching on a few of the things I want to get to today. President Trump has renamed what used to be called the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, the Gulf of America. Because after all, it's surrounded by America. It's not surrounded by Mexico. It's got Mexico flanking on, over there, one part of the Gulf of America now. Well, President Trump is traveling to the Middle East soon, to Saudi Arabia and to beautiful Saudi Arabia on Al Jazeera, the peninsula. And he's going to the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. He's going to visit there. And the headline today is from the Angry Left, Trump to announce new name for Persian Gulf, officials say. And they're going to rename it the Gulf of Arabia. The Gulf of Arabia. Now, here's the thing. I have known for a long, long time, because I pay attention to the news, and I'm not as forgetful as Joe Biden, for example, Kamala Harris, other incredibly dumb, ignorant people. I have a better memory than that most of the time. But it is, it's going to rename it and say it's the Gulf of Arabia. You got Iran on one side. They're the bad guys. You have the Arabian Peninsula on the other side. Why would you name it for the bad guys over there to the east? Why not to the less bad guys over here to the west? And so President Trump, now here's the thing, is going to rename it the Gulf of Arabia. Here's the thing. I went to Google Earth this morning. I love Google Earth. It's an amazing tool and toy. Great fun. Visit your old childhood schools and things like that. Look for Miss Sheehan. See if Miss Sheehan's still there. But she's not. I can't find her on Google Earth. One of my favorite teachers, crush on Miss Sheehan as a kid at the Lions School. But never mind that. The Gulf of Arabia that name has been used by the U.S. military for a long time and by the Saudis in Saudi Arabia. As you may be aware, I spent several months in Saudi Arabia long ago now, after Saddam Hussein invaded the 19th province, also known as Kuwait. I was dispatched to Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, and spent a few months there getting ready for all the big dust up. But the Gulf of Arabia, that's been on maps, U.S. military maps and Saudi maps for a long, long time. President Trump says he's going to recognize the Arabs with the Gulf of Arabia and take the title away from Iran, the Persian Gulf, because, he likes to stir things up, I think. Pretty. And President Trump, hilarious, this really was funny yesterday. Barack Obama's trying to build the Barack Obama Library in Chicago. Is that the library? Is it called the library? The Barack Obama Library in Chicago. And he hired a bunch of DEI, left-wing organizations to build it, and it's a complete disaster. It looks like it's already a post-apocalyptic ruin because they can't get it together because they're left-wing radicals. But President Trump made a very generous offer to Barack Obama yesterday, and it was pretty funny. I got to say, I saw him doing it live, and I just laughed out loud. I thought it was great. Wonderful stuff. President Trump. Funny. Also, did you see Lady Gaga? You know her. She used to sing songs, I think. Big, gigantic concert on Copacabana Beach in Rio in Brazil. And there was a terrorist who was plotting to attack it and murder as many people as possible. He's been captured. The plot has been stopped. But did you know the most important detail about the would-be mass murderer, the would-be terrorist? That's coming up. We're at 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. All right, let us go to the telephones, Michael, and talk to the nice American people. Although there might be a crazy Democrat calling in. Let's from the asylum. But no, we've got a normal person. Let's go to Matt calling from St. Louis, Missouri. Matthew, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris. Happy Hump Day in Democultopia. Hey,
Thank you.
Yeah. So these crazy politicians and the Golden Stream media and MSN 13 who all want men and women's sports, I wonder if they think it'd be okay for someone to say, oh, forget what my chromosomes say. I identify as a Down syndrome person, and then go and steal Special Olympic medals. Or if a full-bodied, intact limb person said, oh, I identify as a military veteran amputee, and went and stole Invictus Games medals. Or if a bunch of Major League Baseball players got together and said, oh, we identify as 10-year-olds, and then went and stole the Little League World Series trophy. And if they were okay with all that, then I would say, well, in that case, the January 6th people were just identifying as members of Congress, trying to claim their rightful place in the chamber to vote against the certification of a corrupt election.
Well, if they had merely been identifying as Democrats, then the Democrat Party would applaud it and say that was all free speech. Since they had just finished burning cities from Seattle and Portland to Miami and Atlanta and Washington, D.C., and looting and plundering. So they made that all normal. They made it all fine. Now, I got to say, Matt, I think you raise a really fun question that Democrats should have to answer. And, believe it or not, there was a movie called The Ringer made in 2005. And it's about the very thing that you described, as a matter of fact, with a guy named Johnny Knoxville. And he pretends that he's, as bright as a Democrat so he can compete in the Special Olympics. The Democrat Party. They're still the Confederate States of America. They haven't changed at all, have they? No, they haven't. Yeah, but a story out of Brazil, where they have a lot of Brazilians, and they have a lot of beaches, and they have Rio de Janeiro and Copacabana Beach, and Barry Manilow wrote a song about it, so it's got to be a big beach. But it's kind of an amazing story for a couple of reasons, and I see that one of our great callers, one of our great listeners has called in to talk about this too. And Michael, before I give away, I don't want to give away too early what's going on, because the terrorist arrested for plotting a massacre at a Lady Gaga concert, Copacabana Beach in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, has been arrested. And a couple of interesting things about it. But I see that Steve has called in from Brookville, Maryland, and Steve has some thoughts because he just heard what I was saying about the plot to massacre people at the Lady Gaga concert in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And Steve has some thoughts on the subject. So So we decided let's go to Steve calling from Brookville, Maryland. Stephen, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, I have not heard this, so I have a multiple choice. So the perpetrator was probably A member of Tren de Aragua, B, he was wearing a ski mask and a MAGA hat, C, he was a father from Maryland, D, he was trans, or E, all of the above.
Wow, that's pretty good. You know,
possibly I left out Democrat.
Yeah, get left out. You know, it is Rio de Janeiro. It's a little far away, but it is it's a distinct possibility. There's no doubt about that. Now listen to this, because CNN is all over the story, and they've got a portion of the story, but not the whole story, because everything they do is political. And here's the CNN people: Lady Gaga bomb plot targeted LGBTQ crowd. Third person planned Satanist ritual child killing, Brazil authorities say. Now, here's the thing. Now, and I've got to say, Steve, for me, and this is kind of interesting. They got bomb, they got guns, now the Democrat Party runs after school Satan Club in the United States of America at schools for the kids because they worship Satan and Planned Parenthood. And Tren de Aragua and MS-13 and the jihadis and Hamas. The Democrat Party is on the side of evil everywhere. But CNN is wound up about this, and they said one of the arrested these guys, right? And they're not women, they're guys, and they identify as guys apparently. One of those searched was the man who allegedly planned on killing a child or a baby, like Rosemary's Baby, during the concert, as he claimed that Gaga was a Satanist and he wanted to respond in the same way, according to police officer Maria Luisa Machado. And he was also charged with terrorism, including crime, including crime. Now, that would make sense. Terrorism is a crime in Brazil, I think, too, right? But CNN does not write. They don't do journalism there. So 2 of the search warrants were as a result of a coordinated action with the U.S. consulate. Why would the U.S. consulate be involved in arresting a terrorist in Brazil that was going to attack a Lady Gaga concert? That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Just the U.S. consulate, who warned Brazilian authorities about potential threats, according to the Rio de Janeiro civil police. Now, Danny Morella Tretton, one of the millions of Lady Gaga fans that attended the concert, told CNN's Julia Vargas Jones, she has 3 names, that the fact that the group actively wanted to target the LGBTQ population left a bitter taste in my mouth. Now, that just opens up all kinds of responses, doesn't it? I mean, why would you? Come on, let's talk about this. Send, hey, rewrite, but emphasize that Gaga bringing queer joy to Rio de Janeiro was an important statement as the world turns more conservative. See, that, and the implication of that line is, it's conservatives who were plotting the attack, and they were going to sacrifice a baby in a Satanist ritual. Classic conservative move, according to CNN. That's what they're peddling here, because they're not a news organization. They're a Democrat Party, a left-wing front group. So 2 people arrested on suspicion of planning an attack at Lady Gaga concert, Rio de Janeiro. We're targeting LGBTQ plus people, especially the plus. That's the ones that really had them going. The police said. Now, the CNN people, they don't know quite what to say, but here's the what I thought was kind of a fascinating element in all of this. The New York Post has a very different version of the story because they respect facts and truth and news, like the Hunter Biden laptop story that CNN tried to bury in a shallow grave in the desert near Las Vegas. But here's the headline from the good people of the New York Post. Suspected terrorist accused of planning to kill fans at Lady Gaga concert, ID'd as immigrant, recently deported from U.S. I'm sorry, what? So the guy was an illegal alien from Brazil, living in the United States, and the Democrats invited him in. The Democrats want this to happen here. They want the bomb, machine gun, mass murder, suicide plot to happen here. And then, like CNN, they can say, oh, it's conservatives, right? Because, January 6th, never mind everything from shooting John F. Kennedy to the riots in Minneapolis. But so a suspected terrorist who allegedly planned to kill Lady Gaga fans in a sickening attack on her record-breaking Brazil concert had been deported from the U.S. only last month. So wait a minute. He was illegally in the U.S., and the Trump administration deported him. And the Democrat Party, like CNN here, they're attacking conservatives. Must be a conservative, right? He was deported from the U.S. just last month, Brazilian authorities have revealed. Luiz de Silva, 44 years old, wanted to live stream the execution of children. Now, that's a Democrat. That's definitely a Democrat thing. They give out awards for massacring more babies every year. They do. The Margaret Sanger Award. They've actually stopped giving out the Margaret Sanger Award, but they gave one to Hillary Clinton. She's the proud recipient of a Margaret Sanger Award. Who else is a proud recipient? Hanoi Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda, proud recipient of she's a genocidal racist and a hero of the Democrat Party, founder of Planned Parenthood. But the guy, suspected terrorist, now arrested plotting the attack, was deported from the United States just last month. Not under Joe Biden. He probably came in under Joe Biden, but Luiz da Silva, 44 years old, wanted to live stream the execution of children and set up bombs close to the stage during Lady Gaga's performance, allegedly to 2.5 million fans there for the concert on Copacabana Beach in Rio de Janeiro on Saturday. He said that the singer was a Satanist and that he was going to perform a Satanist ritual too, killing a child during the show. See, the Rio de Janeiro police said. And the New York Post has the story, so you can trust that, unlike the CNN version. Now, authorities are investigating why Da Silva was removed from the United States. Da Silva and a 17-year-old boy were taken into custody just hours before the concert went ahead after authorities uncovered their alleged murderous plot. It's a murderous plot, you see. The pair allegedly used Discord. That's a chat function. It's on Al Gore's amazing internet. I blame Al Gore. To try to radicalize others, including teenagers, to carry out attacks against children and members of the LGBTQ plus community who were attending the concert. I don't know how many were attending. They plan to use Molotov cocktails. That's definitely Democrat work there. Usually they're firebombing Jewish governors in the governor's mansion and things like that. And explosive backpacks. Probably not the backpacks explosive, but they put bombs in there, So Da Silva was arrested on an illegal gun possession, and that was the charge when they got him in the southern state of Rio Grande do Sul. And he was released on bail on Monday because they have lefties there too. Hey, let's let him go, sparking fury from local officials. So he was a leader of a group. The group he led also promoted pedophilia, Democrats, misogyny, Democrats, and LGBT phobia. Sounds like hostility rather than an irrational fear, doesn't it? Through social media. In addition, at the time of his arrest, he was in possession of an illegal firearm. A congressman from Sao Paulo said, isn't that amazing? So the suspected teen accomplice was arrested for possession of child pornography, right, at his home in Rio de Janeiro. It isn't known if he's still in police custody. Child pornography, that reminds me, I didn't even get to the story yesterday, that another Democrat mayor in Maryland was arrested on child pornography charges. And is he out on bail yet? Because, the Democrats love to let everybody out on bail. But there's another Democrat, because we had one Democrat mayor in College Park, Maryland, that was arrested on like 146 counts or something of child pornography. And he was a Democrat mayor elected to be mayor of College Park, where there's a college, as you might imagine, the University of Maryland. Why else would you call it College Park? And so he was, and that guy was. We had those two stories yesterday in our collection, but the Democrats, they're completely insane. So now we've got a second Democrat mayor elected by Democrats in Maryland who has been arrested on child pornography charges. Now, I thought of that because I was reading about the terrorists in Brazil. They're arrested on the same charges. And isn't that amazing? Because they're really out of their minds. And the new mayor from Maryland, it's under the Democrat stories. You can't narrow it down anymore. It's hey, Democrats, what do we have here? Murder, terrorism, child porn, the usual stuff. Isn't that amazing? They truly are. They are something. So, also the Democrats they're in trouble in the polls. That can only lead to bad things, can it? So we've got the University Park mayor has been indicted on charges of producing child sexual abuse images. Another Democrat. So I see Rio de Janeiro and the psychopaths there have a lot in common with, for example, Joel Bierman, 46 years old, of University Park, Maryland, accused of persuading and coercing multiple victims to engage in sexually explicit conduct, of which he produced images. Well, naturally. So he is the now former mayor of University Park, Maryland, and he's been indicted by a federal grand jury, charges of producing and distributing images of child sexual abuse because, Democrats, this is the thing about Democrats, and this Democrat is called Joel Bierman. He was elected as a Democrat. He ran as a Democrat. Again, he's hanging out in University Park, where you might find a lot of young people, and that's quite remarkable. It's pretty amazing stuff. And he goes with the other mayor, the other mayor of College Park. He was arrested maybe 2 years ago now on 140-something counts of child pornography himself. This is a guy who was visiting the Biden White House again and again and is a longtime friend of Pete Buttigieg, who is LGBTQ. He's in the gated community as well. But the Democrat Party, they produce a lot of these people and a lot of these things. And this guy, he visited the Biden White House repeatedly, and he had at least once been invited by Pete Buttigieg, and he would do funky, weird, kinky sexual poses on the South Lawn and take pictures and post them. And he was the mayor of College Park, Maryland, because the Democrat Party, they're not normal. They're not the good guys. Boy. So that one, again, they arrested this guy in the University Park. You got University Park, then you have College Park, because the mayor of College Park, Maryland, not to be confused with University Park, possessed child sex abuse materials, agrees to be disbarred in Maryland. He wanted to be disbarred. That is pretty amazing. That was an update from just last month, from March of 2025, the Baltimore Banner covering the story. Patrick Wohan, a Democrat, served as mayor from 2015 to 2023. Patrick Wohan, now the former mayor of College Park, Maryland, resigned after law enforcement executed a search and seizure warrant and discovered a very large quantity of child sexual abuse materials on his cell phone. He's agreed to be disbarred in Maryland. What do you mean agreed to? He's got to agree to it? Well, he doesn't agree to be disbarred. Well, we just can't do anything. He hasn't agreed to be disbarred. So that's two Democrat mayors in two Maryland towns, both named for University Park and College Park, because there are colleges and universities there where you find a lot of young people, and the Democrats, creepy stalkers that they are. And it's good to be a Democrat because none of this becomes national news. In the meantime, in Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., we've got another story of a young woman who's decided she's a young man and she's using the young man's locker room and shower room. The young men objected, and now the Democrats are going to crucify the young men for raising an eyebrow that a fake boy, actual girl, is in their locker room. Because the Democrat Party is anti-science, anti-biology, anti-culture, anti-civilization, anti-male, and certainly anti-gender. They're a screwy bunch. Screwy, I tell you. Also, we have updates coming from the Vatican in Rome, where the conclave is beginning today to select a new pope. And I will update you on that as well. 888-630-9625. Ah, yes. Democrats, they've got a lot of issues, a lot of them related to sex, I've noticed. The latest Democrat Maryland mayor to be arrested on child porn charges, Joel Bierman of University Park, right? Not to be confused with the other Democrat mayor of College Park, which is completely different. But this one, the latest, because Patrick Wohan, he captured, it's just amazing, mayor until 2023, visitor to the Biden White House repeatedly. It's good to be a Democrat because if a Republican had the same circumstance, every American would know every detail of the story after it was pounded into everyone's head day after day, month after month, until it was January 6th all over again. But this guy, the latest one, the former mayor of University Park, Maryland, just amazing. The law enforcement officers searched Bierman's devices. They said they found 45,000 files containing child sexual abuse. He listed the files by race and by age, the youngest listed as 2 years old. And this is not a story, even though he's a Democrat mayor of a college town, and he's the second Democrat mayor of a second college town in the last couple of years with the same set of circumstances. Now, if that were, you just change that Democrat to Republican, and it's a giant story. Again, they had more than 550 riots across the country, and the news media told us they were mostly peaceful until Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed at the Capitol.